I went to the highest officer school there is and started taking, okay, here is a leadership development program also in Finnish Army. I want to learn maximum out of this and understanding different organizations and about the leadership in Army and so on. And you wear this, and this is the biggest mistake he's seen from a young leader like in the Army in 15 years. And I looked at him back and I remember responding that I'm a responsible guy, put me all the penalties that the book offers for this. And I will promise you that you haven't seen this kind of a 5 months that I will do after this.
Welcome to Inner Power Particles. I'm Farhad, the host of the podcast. We talk with entrepreneurs and leaders about how they have solved the challenges in their life or business and how it has transformed into new inner strength in them. And with this we want to help that you also can look at your life or business situations and see how you can solve the challenges in them and through that transform them also into new inner strengths, inner power particles in you. Enjoy the show. Hi Tommi.
Hello.
Thank you for accepting in your office and being open to do this interview.
My pleasure, man.
Just to kick off the conversation, can you share what do you do today?
Yeah. So right now as an entrepreneur, we are building Jobilla. We are revolutionizing how companies recruit. There is massive problems around the world how that companies need to outsource their recruitment since the traditional employer-driven way of doing recruitment doesn't work. So companies don't get candidates from job boards and they need to go to more and more staffing companies. And I could actually share it with my story also how we founded Jobilla. But right now we are working on Jobilla and my role in Jobilla is to lead the growth. So I'm Chief Growth Officer on top of being another of the founders of the company. But right now focusing on building recruitment in the world into a more candidate-driven way.
Okay. By the way, how do we pronounce it correctly? Jobilla or Jobilla?
Both are used. Both. So it has both sides. In Finnish language, you would use Jobilla,
yeah.
But then in English, it's Jobilla. So it's okay for us both.
Okay.
We haven't actually in a company tone of voice, we haven't put in it that it has to be another one.
Okay. As this is in English and for English-speaking audience, then I will use Jobilla if you allow. Okay, so you are a co-founder and one of the leaders responsible for growth in this company. And I agree with what you shared about these challenges in the hiring market. Before we go into story how you co-founded Jobilla, I want to touch one topic that is where I have natural curiosity also is I know that you've been in military as most men in Finland, which is not so common in several other countries in Europe, although nowadays it is becoming a bit more a trend. Can you look back at you in military and you today, how where you are today is part of who you became because of or thanks to being in the military?
Yeah, actually the military plays in my story, in the whole story, plays actually a bigger part that I thought. I went to military as an 18-year-old after high school and I thought that I will just, in Finland there is like 2 ways to do military. So you can do it in half a year and just be a ordinary soldier and train for that. Or then you can be like 12 months and go also for the second half year, like this leadership program of the Finnish military. So every half a year comes like new people into the military, it rotates. And those who has been half year, some of them leave on half a year, others lead the next half a year segment and then it rotates. This is how Finnish military works. And so my first initial idea was that I'm going to be there half a year and then I'm going to be just gone. I was back then coaching tennis and doing sports instructions. So I will go back to my work doing those things. And then they forced me a little bit. They can do that. So a little bit forced me to stay for 12 months. And I didn't have very good reason that I have to get out. So they pushed me being 12 months. And I've been always the type of person who, if something comes on my way, I try to take maximum out of it. So see in anything I do, even as a very young kid, I've been always this person that I don't just want to go on things and find how this is going to be the easiest way out. But in this case also, I thought that, okay, now if I'm going to be here for 12 months, I'm going to take maximum out of it. So I went to the highest officer school there is and started taking, okay, here is a leadership development program also in Finnish Army. I want to learn maximum out of this and understanding different organizations and about the leadership in Army and so on. And I ended up being in the officer school. Actually there I also met Henry, who we've co-founded the Jobilla with. But then actually in the Army, after the officer school, when I came back, and this is a little bit sensitive, but I want to share it because it's important. So what happened is I'm a very responsible guy. And I came back from the officer school to lead those who just came to the Army. And we went drinking with the guys. And so I had been 3 weeks leading the next generation. We went drinking, and I wake up next morning. I don't remember anything from the evening, so it went too much. And I hear that we came 1.5 hours late back to the unit, and I had peed inside.
In the unit? In
the unit. So what happens is I go downstairs and there is 160 people going to a morning breakfast in these lanes. 160 people laughing on me. And I was like, massive hangover, 160 people laughing on me and walking to the breakfast and thinking that, oh man, I messed up so bad. And of course I come back from the breakfast. Many guys came clapping on my back, told me, let's see what happens. And I go to the captain's office, of course. They will ask, Siro to captain's office. And I go there and I'm like this, and he looks at me just stares at me 2 minutes.
In complete silence?
Complete silence. And then he goes. He's been 15 years in Army. He has not seen many times this talented of a guy like I am. And he said that you were, he spoke about me in a past. So he said that you were one of the most talented artists he's seen. And you were this. And this is the biggest mistake he's seen from a young leader in the Army in 15 years. Mm-hmm. And I remember my brain going, as this doer mentality guy, my brain went, I hated that he used this past, that I'm something from past. And I looked at him back and I remember responding that I'm a responsible guy, put me all the penalties that the book offers for this. And I will promise you that you haven't seen this kind of a 5 months that I will do after this, after I've taken all the penalties. You've never seen such a 5 months. So if you haven't seen this big of a mistake in 15 years, you haven't seen in 50 years this type of a 5 months I will do after this, the last 5 months in this Army.
Yeah.
And long story short, I won the best leader of the battalion, best soldier of the battalion. I was elected as in the highest rank you can get for 2.5 years in messaging battalion 5 months later.
Yeah.
And I go out from there because I did everything the next 5 months that I could to showcase what I'm capable of. So I had this burn on turning the mistake around.
Yeah.
It's like that, hey, you don't talk about me in past and I will turn this, what I messed up, I will turn this around. And I did. And I remember when I got all the awards and I go out from the awards ceremony, generals had given me those. The captain stands there outside the place and looks at me and he's, do you remember our conversation 5 months ago? And I was like, yes, I do. That's why I have all awards that I got. So thank you for being tough on me back then and making sure that young guy understand that he really messed up and he needs to pick his stuff together. So the Army times for me, it was, I've raised up in places where I've been a lot, not only in Helsinki city where I've born and raised, but I was back then all the summers in the summer cottage and doing all the grunt work. So this side was very familiar for me, but the Army was this first place where I got really into this very strict rules and very need to be on the lanes right way and things like this. But I remember from Army, this was big for me, that I realized that you can turn things around, you can turn mistakes around. And even being on the rock bottom, remembering that after that it actually accelerated also in the entrepreneurial career. That turning mess-ups around is one thing that I will take from the Army.
So here I want to ask you, how do you feel, would this have happened if you didn't mess up, meaning have you had these medals and these achievements? And the second question immediately after that is, now you mentioned that this has impacted the way how you are in business. How do you see?
Yeah, I think people always go in situations like trying to see that nothing goes wrong. But also when, because this is like you just wake up in the morning and everything is fucked type of situation. So it went from having good party and the officer school done and very good times into being in your rock bottom in 10 hours.
Yeah.
I think, number one, I would have not gotten those awards without this incident. Because I would have never put in the effort in the evening times, for instance, that I voluntarily planned how the whole battalion, 350 soldiers, moves from Vekaranjärvi to northern Finland into this 1 week in forest training. So I did voluntarily things that are not on anybody's, that is not working for military. So I did their evening works even to showcase what I'm capable of and wanting to learn. No, I would have not done that. I would have just gone to do sports and go chit chat with others in the evening. Now, because I had messed up also, like my brain was put into a state that I need to showcase myself. So this was a driver here in the back, a little bit. And at the same time, so it's a combination of my personality, my drivers, and nagging on the drivers on site. So you got like gasoline on the fire, so thing. And after that, yes, when having this type of defining moments on somewhere, that this was a defining moment in my military that changed my mental attitude on how I go after something. After that, I realized also that when we started the businesses, that things can go wrong. So it basically, because there is the cliche that you learn from mistakes, right? But then when you've turned big mistakes around, it becomes part of your self-confidence and your self-worth, that you know that, yes, I'm able to go into places where things can go wrong and really not only learn from them, but use them also as an accelerator of being something great.
Yeah.
So making mistakes and being vulnerable in that sense, because big case in there was also that I was an 18-year-old that everybody laughed next week. This is the guy who peed on this. So it was, for many others, it would have been so shameful that they don't even get up. But this is then comes back to where I come from and how much self-confidence I had already that moment. So that I had, but what it impacted a lot was how I view my mistakes, how I view messing up. So that it impacted a lot, and it has been a lot of help after that.
Mm-hmm. So very interesting, and I actually wanted to ask you about this shame aspect, because I can imagine that you are in a group of young men where to belong to the crowd at this age, it's also super important.
Yes.
Not stand out in a negative way.
Yes.
But you stood out in a most negative way, embarrassing way. Okay, you got the second chance from your leader, but how about the group? How did you kind of blend in the group and regain the respect of the group?
This is actually another thing. How Army coaches your leadership is very much through the position and the rank. So if you have the higher rank, basically the other person has to do what you say.
Yes.
You have to do what I say. Now this happened. So I was very much, even I have still the ranks,
yes,
but I'm put them into a position that people can look at me like, that guy, and they can laugh and shake their heads. So what I immediately did and what I had to do is I needed to get the people on my side. I needed to really connect with them, co-discuss with them, and build that they want to follow me, they want to do stuff with me.
So how did you do it?
So I went to for instance, because after the officer school, you lead a team which has 30, 40 people. And then inside the 30, 40 people, there is like groups of 6 people, which are led by this lower level officer school.
Yes.
And so I went into those cabins where people just in the evening, just chatting with people. And you don't normally do that because you can just use your force saying, so You don't normally go in there and just chat for hours with everybody and get to know everybody, but that's what I did. And then I said to everybody that my goal as your leader is that I'm not going to ask you doing anything stupid, but when we try to get something done, let's do it in very good. And I will promise to show example in anything I ask.
Yes.
So it actually, what this mistake also did is that I needed to humble myself, because I didn't have anymore the position to go behind it. So I needed to play the humble guy who others want to follow. And this just catapulted how good of a leader I was compared to others. Because the others, everybody watching, how is Siro's team always going so smoothly and things happening? But because I had to work on others really wanting to follow me and wanting to work with me.
Which is what is necessary in business, because there you don't have a rank when you are...
Yeah, this is the real leadership. So leadership word, the lowest level of leadership is just the position. I can give you position.
Yeah.
All the other levels of leadership needs to be earned. So what I needed to do actually, back then I didn't know this because I hadn't read 100 books on leadership and things like this. But I had to start behaving like a higher level leader. Mm-hmm. Because this had happened, because this had killed the position, like faded the position. So I needed to be more of a person that they want that, okay, Siro is going to lead. Okay, yeah. It's okay for us that Siro leads because he's the kind of person we want to follow. So it catapulted me being into also learning. And actually when this happened, then was also when first times I had been coaching tennis since 14-year-old. I had been interested about leadership and how I get people involved, groups involved and coaching and things like this. But back then I also took then books in hand, like John C. Maxwell's 5 Levels of Leadership and things like this. And I realized that, okay, hey, now what actually this thing also did is that because it humbled me so much, and I started focusing on that we really connect and you really trust me and we want to get together somewhere. Of course, the place where we are is army and there is very strict box how you need to do these things. But still inside that box, there is the thing that, do you hate me and you just have to do stuff, or am I the kind of person that you respect and inside this box, let's do them with a good manner together and you want to do them with me?
Yes, meaning that there's this one dimension that I want to do things the way they have to be done because I'm in this box or I'm in this company, but other I want to support you, I want to follow you as the leader.
Exactly,
which
exactly.
Is like a dual force then.
Yeah, exactly. And we have to touch where I come from to talk about the shame aspect.
Yes, and exactly, I want to ask you, because the behavior you described, it's extraordinary, outstanding, and I wonder, and I bet that who are listening also are wondering, is it like naturally inborn thing in you, such behavior, or this is something that someone can acquire? And how have you come to be where you are?
Yeah, and I truly believe that why I was able in a very young age to be very self-aware and not to take things in myself is one of the biggest kind of weapons, so to say, I have is that I come from a family. My mom is a nurse, my dad is an engineer, and we never had too much money, but we were not also like very mid-class, very classic mid-class family.
Yeah.
But tons of love, tons of endorsing that, Tommi, you can be anything. So I come from a background where I've been always cared and loved and always made sure that, hey, anything happens, there is somebody behind you, there is always. So also in the young age, if I messed up something, it was very not, I was backyard 15 minutes in the -20 with my only boxers on. So I got the learning, Tommi, be responsible. But same time, there was always this love and care and endorsement, and my parents are still together and happy marriage and things like this. So I think it's these components, when you are very young, is something that builds up a person that can take stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, I truly believe that all the love, the pureness, like value-based pureness at home. My mom and dad also lead still Red Cross in northern Helsinki. My dad has been leading it for 25 years, and we yearly lead the money collecting in
Yeah.
this hunger day and things like this. So, and my mom does childcare in doing voluntary work all the evening. So I'm very used to doing voluntary work, be there for others, care about others. You are gonna be taken care of, you are gonna be endorsed, you can be yourself. So I'm born and raised in this environment. So I truly believe that these things, when things started going all so tough, my brain doesn't go into a mode that I'm gonna be put in away or something.
Yeah.
There is always gonna be some people, I can always go home even I miss up. And I am in safe space in this sense. So as an 18-year-old, I think I knew that I can call my dad. I knew that even I would be doing anything. I can go there. Yes, there will be, Tommi, take the responsibility. They will be tough on me, but the love and care will never go away. So I think the love and care component is what, combined with my personality, which is really good and driving for getting over obstacles. So I think it's a combination of these things that when, even in the younger age, when things went rough, I was just ready to navigate. And also, my dad is an engineer, so he's been coaching me to use my own brain in situations a lot. So saying that, Tommi, just follow if you see that something, not go with just the feeling, use also the brain side. So I used a lot of my brain that, okay, what's the real situation here? And exactly this was one of my points. I remember thinking that we are young boys who want to be on top of each other. So I knew this. So I was, okay, I need to turn this around also.
So what I also hear you saying is that you felt love, which created in you the feeling that you are lovable, and therefore in this situation, 18-year-old, you were ashamed of your behavior, but not of your being,
Yes.
because the being doesn't change.
Yes.
And then you obviously saw that, okay, I can change my behavior.
Yes. And exactly, I knew that this was something that who I am not.
Yes.
This was a mistake. I had never done this type of a mistake. Actually, this is the first and last time that I've peed inside,
Yes.
not in toilet.
So but this is the important part, that I am not my behavior. That I am lovable, my behavior maybe is not acceptable at moments. But now the punchline question is, I know that you are also mentoring your team members and people around you. You have maybe also observed that many people do not have childhood like yours, do not have these inner reserves of love, do not have this self-image that I'm lovable.
Yes.
So what's your advice, or what's your approach? How can someone who listening, I see this is very nice, but I don't have it, and like, how do I get it?
It's a very good question. So this has been the last, let's say, 13 years, 12 years, when I was 21, 22. I got interested on different personalities and different backgrounds and how they shape stuff and what can we do about it. So my philosophy nowadays with people, and also myself, is that anything there is, anything, let's try to create a circle of trust and turn that as a positive thing. Let me give you an example. So let's say we have a leader that has had, or a person in the team who has had alcoholism at home and then bullied at school. By working on these things and discussing about and how can we turn them around, that nowadays actually they become strengths, that you have them in your bag.
Yeah.
Because I have in my bag, I have this immense love and endorsing and voluntary work and things like this, which still today I'm every day grateful. I don't take them for granted. So I use them as part of my energy. But person, for instance, who had an alcoholism at home and then bullied at school, left outside from some groups, for instance.
Yeah.
If we work on those enough, we can get to a situation that those are in your energy, that you are gonna be somebody. Because I've said to them, for instance, I wasn't bullied at school. I was the kind of leading person most of the situation. And not leading the bullying, but actually even saying this, that I was the one who went, I was in the both ends. So I knew the bulliers and I knew so I went even spreading
Yeah.
And I got awarded for these things. So this is why also as an 18-year-old that I messed up. I had been always a person that everybody likes, and now I mess up. So that's why it was a little bit game changing. But I've said to everybody that I don't have, for instance, the feeling of being left out. I don't have it in my subconscious brain and my system. I don't have the feeling of being, as a 12-year-old, bullied. So if you have it, we can use it in your real, deep level energy. That as a leader, for instance, you're going to be against it. You're going to be a leader who really makes sure that others are involved. So we use the energy of your background to be something positive and massive nowadays. It just needs a tons of work.
Yes.
And this is also who I try to be for many people, Jobilla leadership development program. So I really try to help people also to use whatever they have to being something today, and turning things into strengths. Mm-hmm. And if they are positive in the background, we use it as a gratefulness and how we can through that share the positive things. If there is negatives, how we turn those around. That you've been through stuff which shapes you of what kind of environment you want to build and how. But it needs the work, because otherwise it can come out also as that you act how you were acted towards. But we need to flip it in negative things. So this is what I believe.
Yeah. So what you shared, I call transforming the shortcoming into a strength. So you don't erase the shortcoming, because you cannot actually do it, but you can start to use it as a tool, not some destructive force. And then besides shortcomings, there are also blind spots, things that people don't see. And I see it as far as long we haven't integrated full our unconsciousness, which is more than a lifetime, then everyone has their blind spots. So a question, what methods do you use to still keep growing? Like, how do you get to know your blind spots, your shortcomings?
I try to have an environment of openness. So environment where people really come say to me if I created certain feeling. Is it positive or negative? But I don't always ask for rational stuff, because it works the way that first comes the feeling and then comes the thought. So feeling is instant and the thought comes later. Yeah. So I ask openness on feeling side also. And I think one main factor that I want to start from other people, because other people is the first thing I use to develop myself. So yes, until this age and done lots of stuff, just reading books about leadership and reading more stuff about different how to think and these things. Of course, doing these videos, books, and this is one part. Then I'm still in mentoring, so having somebody on my side who I can discuss about deep stuff. But one of my keys is that I even insist from people around me, fully open culture. And this means that if there is anything, I try to create environment where people really can open up and people really can say how they felt. And it's not ever judged. It's never judged. Not creating this environment where I really get how my behavior, how my being really affected your feelings. And this way, then it's just, because also another thing I've seen is that your mindset is not linearly, same as your body can be in better or worse shape. Yeah. A little bit same with the mindset. You can be better or worse shape during, for instance, in a span of a year even. Yes. So also to keep on, hey, if my behavior in certain situations or my being creates certain feelings, really getting it from people around you. I think many leaders and many people, they by a little bit judging or a little bit defending stuff, they create an environment where they don't actually anymore hear what's happening around them and how people feel around them, really, in deep level. Sometimes it happens, but I try not to defend, or I try not to at all judge if I hear something. even if it's my brain said that this is ridiculous, I try not to defend or judge, because it just shuts the doors of hearing. So I think growth comes from getting the real honest so-called feedback around you on how your behavior, words, being, anything affects the feelings, and then after that thoughts around you. So that is a big for me. And I'm not a person, I've heard many times that many people say that they would like to get 10% of how much I don't care what other people think.
Yeah.
But that's true if we take people that I don't know. So yes, I don't care about what people who I don't know or they don't know me, what they think. If I'm doing something and I believe in it, I don't care what they think. But what do I do really much care what people think is people around me.
Okay.
The important people for me. So yes, there is, because that's the best growth area also. These are the people I do stuff with, and we try to get something done together, for instance. So they are the best kind of area for growth for me also, if I'm very reflecting and honest with them and open.
Okay. Let's stay with this topic a bit more. So what you're saying is you are taking into account other people's feelings and even asking for them. And how do you approach? So you hear feelings, but at the same time you are a leader. This means you sometimes need to make decisions and execute things that not everyone is happy about.
Yes.
Yes. How do you approach things like confrontation, things like making tough calls, and how do you deal that people are not happy with these tough calls afterwards, but at the same time take into account those feelings?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I think why I also use so much with people and really understanding that they're understanding me is that when you know who you are talking to and in which values. So if people know who I am and which values I have, then even they don't like in certain moment some of my decision or a call, understand it in that certain moment fully. They can recall more, okay, Tommi is this type of a person and with this value, so there has to be a good reason. And then they come to me and ask for, can you explain why are you saying or doing what? And then we can go back and forth. So I think it comes down to really making sure that people really know you and you know them. Who is Farhad? If I know who is Farhad and I hear something or I see something, I can right away my brain goes, is this the same Farhad I know? So that's why this work has to be very deep, and this is something you cannot do in weeks or months. You can just grab the surface. But that's why I also like deep relationships. I've been with my spouse only 16 years. I've done business with Henry first time 14 years ago. So I like relationships where we really know each other, because then you can be also faster. Because I know exactly who Henry is, for instance. I know the guy. So if I know who he is, I hear something, he said this or he's done that. I can already, my brain can recall, okay, and then I can call and ask, okay, what's the case? But it's not judging because I know who is there. Yeah. So if you want to be very fast and agile, yes, you need to know the people around you. Otherwise, it will be all the time like this suspicious a little bit also that this and that. And because in business and growth business, yes, and this is a tough year, we needed to lay out some people, for instance. So what we did, we used hours and tens of hours to discussing with people why we need to do that and how the game has changed from the investors asking from growth to profit and different things. So we are ready to use time on explaining ourselves if we need to do tough moves. And this is what many leaders, they get too exhausted of explaining themselves.
Yes.
And this is many times the problem. Yeah.
I've heard, and I know that for many, layoffs have been the topic for the past year. And we'll get into that, but still coming back to these feelings and what you said, that people, you need to know who is the other person, but also the other person needs to know who you are.
Yes.
And now team needs to know who you are, but to know who you are, you need to show more of yourself than just the always good, everything is okay facade. So how do you balance being open, but at the same time not coming up as weak or tired or worried or whatnot? So any these best practices that have worked for you in this sense?
Yes, on my side, people call me already a robot, kind of. But first of all, yes, and I feel responsible also as a leader to keep myself in the game. So I don't take, for instance, my health, that I have energy every day and that I'm gonna be healthy always. I don't take that for granted, but I work on it like all the time. And then on top of, for instance, now the heel is almost broken, so there is something wrong. So I'm very honest. When there is something, I'm very honest, gonna be very honest. If I'm a little bit uncertain, I'm gonna say that I'm a little bit uncertain.
Yeah.
But the next wording is gonna be that we've gone through different things. For instance, when the pandemic hit, we didn't have zero clue on what will happen.
Yeah.
So we said that we're not sure what will happen, but this is our attitude going into this. So I think you need to be honest as a leader, that when you are a little bit uncertain, but you need to show the effort and the attitude. So what we did is said that, hey, our attitude is that we are gonna do what the hell ever it takes to get through this, and we will find ways 70 hours per week if needed. But right now, yes, I don't even try to say that I know this shit, because it will just look very stupid.
So it's a combination of you admitting what is, but showing that there will be good outcome anyways.
Yes, and we use a lot of this Stockdale Paradox, which is from the Jim Collins book, Good to Great. We use a lot of the Stockdale Paradox concept, which is facing the brutal facts how they are,
Yeah.
and really believing and having the faith that we will prevail at the end.
Yeah.
And it can be that we don't know when. We don't know exactly how always.
Yes.
But we know that we will prevail, but we will also look at the brutal facts. This year, the numbers, how much the recruitment market has come crashing down and open vacancies in different markets, it's crazy. So
Yeah.
we face the brutal facts, but at the same time, we have the attitude that we will prevail in this. We will work our butts off together to find ways and for how we will prevail.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be the numbers we wanted to have this year? No, most probably. So when and how exactly, you don't need to even know that, but you need to show the effort and show that the attitude of, we will get here. I just believe in it, truly, and transfer that energy, because that's even more important than the trying to be logical. And then people just sense that, no, this is not working. So I think many leaders, the mistake they do is that they try to be logical and have the answers, but they don't. They should just say the brutal facts. I don't have the answers now. I believe that we'll prevail. This is where our vision. And now, hey, together, let's start finding answers. Let's start working our butt off to really find the bridge, find the way. So this, we've been really good. Probably also because of the background of being always the type of person who it has been okay to admit that I messed up, or it has been okay that things don't go our way. But then how do we go forward? What is the attitude going there? And I want to also recall here that I won Finnish championships in Sally Bandit game, already 10, 11-year-old.
Yeah.
So in my background there is also this thing that I've used to winning in my life. And this is why also it's also a tool for me when I'm uncertain or I don't know what will happen. I use a tool of, Tommi, you have prevailed earlier. You've been able to get through stuff earlier. You've been able to win earlier also. You are capable. So I remind myself that I'm a capable person and we are a capable group of people to prove in the uncertain moment that, hey, we can get somewhere.
I want to touch this last topic to be mindful of time also. So you mentioned layoffs. It's relatively easy for some founders to become depressed because of it. Like you are building up and then suddenly market conditions are not in a good shape. Investors switch the strategy, you have to lay off people. What's your mindset? How are you approaching it, and what would you suggest to founders who get depressed because of having to lay off people?
But I think the ones that I've seen that is depressed or gets, and they don't live their life of facing brutal facts always. The Stockdale Paradox thing that we face the brutal facts always.
Yes.
So there is two components. Number one, I'm a good person. Henry is a good person. We are a people person. We love our people. This is why we do. This is why I became an entrepreneur, that I hated my bosses when I was 14-year-old, them coming at me, uninspiring as hell.
Yes.
So we love people. This is number one. People know this, that we are up. Then we are ready to face brutal facts. Pandemic hit. We needed to cut people's salaries. Back then we tried to not to, okay, it was a much smaller, also, we were a much smaller company back then.
Yes.
So when it hit, we tried to find ways of how we can do it without putting, so back then it was with like, we had 25 people in the company, so we cut the salaries, and me and Henry, we even took a couple of months, we didn't take any salary. But it's facing the brutal facts all the time. So when you're already in the good times also, you face the brutal facts also in the good times. Hey, now, because also in the good times, why good times also deep in companies, is that they get the good feeling of it, and then they don't put in the effort anymore. They don't even realize where it actually comes, all the good stuff.
Yes.
But if you face the brutal facts all the time, we are doing good because of this effort. We need to keep this effort. Or if things are bad, things are not doing good because of these things. So you have the brutal facts all the time in table, and that's their mindset. Same time you believe in what you do and stuff. But you have the brutal facts on table. So when this is a habit of having the brutal facts always on table, it's actually not that hard to make also tough calls, because the facts need those.
Yes.
And then I just put my feelings on side. It just has to have to go that way, and discuss with people that this is what it is, and we've fought on finding new jobs for those people and things like this, for instance, like crazy.
Yeah.
But having the brutal facts all the time on the table makes it easier for tough calls than, let's say, a company that is going on a little bit of hype and a little bit like this mode, and then they would need to just face the brutal facts one moment. So then it's gonna be mentally very hard if it's, okay, now we need to do this thing. But if the brutal facts are all the time on the table, for instance, yes, we wanted to double the company this year, and we are gonna grow probably 20-30%.
Mm-hmm.
But because we've had the brutal facts all the time on the table, that where the market is, what are the numbers, and we see there is a dip, we just face it. We don't take it into ourselves personally. We face it what it is. So when the closing percent goes down like this, because of companies not having recruitments, then laying off people and so on, we just face it. This is what it is. Let's put new numbers on table.
Tommy, and how does facing brutal facts go together with having a mentor? I would assume that the mentor also guides you to see that this is the reality, what is obvious.
Yeah, for us it has been like the mentor's main thing. I think what it is that you are in your own bubble always. If you are building business 60 hours per week, like I do, for instance, you are sometimes in a bubble in your own head.
Exactly.
And so for me, it's exploding the bubble. So it's like just giving out what is there and having another view all the time on different things. On, is it my feelings personally, or who I am and what we need to do for that, who I am to build something greater, or even just something practical sometimes. Hey, when we've grown this much, let's get help from mentors that how the organizational structure should really look like and things like this. So for us, it has been like mindset side and practical side, both uses. Mm-hmm. So we get out from our own bubbles where we have our own thoughts and get really help and faster forward, which is, this has been like, we've talked with Henry many times, but this has been, for us, this has been the main thing, like getting things out from our own bubbles and own heads, and get somebody that is not in our bubble, get that one's views. And of course we have then the mentor doesn't change like the whole game, of course. We need to build a business, but it helps with, many times it's also just confirming something that we thought.
Yeah.
Or a little bit challenging, hey guys, this thing. I see it's very beneficial and something that actually me and Henry, when we started as entrepreneurs as 20-year-olds, and we had back then mentors who pushed Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence into our hands, which a little bit changed us. Because we're like, what the fuck is this? And then you read it, you're like, why didn't somebody give this to me when I was 10-year-old? Where this book has been.
Yeah.
So same thing a little bit with the mentor. They come up with something, then you're like, oh, you get more into the system, and this just then grows the thing forward. Yes.
Okay.
But of course, we've been like 15 years in business seminars and books, and I go to car, I have an Audible running on something. So nothing anymore in business leadership mindset is like completely new thing. So it's like this, but having somebody on side with the whole journey, this is more the thing.
Yeah.
Because this is a journey, and as I said, it's not all so stable. Actually, this is a good story. One of my mentors back in 15 years ago called me like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Tommi, I read a great book. And then I was like, okay, which one? My own leadership book from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you read your own leadership book from 10 years ago. And he was like, yeah, fuck's sake, I remember tons of great things that I used back in 10 years ago. And I haven't used anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, so also a lot of development is remembering stuff.
Exactly.
So this is also what the mentor can do. Hey, Tommi, these things, these basics, these are... So it can be, in many angles, I felt that it's great, but I've gotten a lot out of it. This one.
Okay. I want to conclude with a question about the through line. So what if you would need to describe to someone what is the central theme that has been active in your life? What is it?
I would say that as an entrepreneur in our family there is no entrepreneurs, so I've needed to build lanes. And when I started as an entrepreneur, this is the first time actually my dad confronted me big time, that wanted to make sure that I don't do wrong things and wrong mistakes, and go to school, Tommi, what needs to happen, and took a bottle of wine and tried to make me go to a business schools and things like this. He was really, but it was a defense mechanism from him, because I was going to a route that he doesn't know nothing about.
Yeah.
And I told this back to him. It has been this resilience through that, and why this is a central theme of became central theme is that I feel like resilience is also one big factor of happiness. You cannot always control what happens to you, or do things go your way, or things like this. So if you are always gonna be living in the past and living in the what if this and what if that, we messed up our first digital company. I had to pay 120,000 euros, and my co-founder Mikael also 120,000 euros back to our old investors and tax
from your
offices.
pocket.
Yes, from our own pockets, and we didn't even have the money, so we needed to find it somewhere. And this was also this. And but with all these mistakes, all this what has gone wrong, and when people ask always that would I change something, the problematic thing by changing your story is that if we change that company, it was very close that another company buys the company at 1.5 million. Then they just saw that your technical tool, the online booking platform that you have, is really rubbish, and they bought another one from Sweden and came to Finland with that solution. And long story short, we spiraled into a very bad place and ended up being in debt instead of selling it the company with money that I would have gotten probably 500,000 cash from the case. Was I also in that situation? Was I somehow depressed? Or I remember me and Mikael, we looked at each other that we just couldn't build a good software. We didn't know, we were not enough good. So now we have the learning, and let's go forward. Resilience makes you also happy in that sense, because it's like if you can get through stuff without them going too deep in your mistakes, you own them and really use them later. This is the same philosophy of you've been bullied at school. Let's use it later.
Yeah.
Same thing as I can use what happened to me in army, what happened with our first digital business. Why Jobilla has actually that good of a technical team. One reason is that we messed up in the last one. So I said to different people that next technical companies that I'm gonna be leading or part of leading is not gonna have a bad technical department because I hate it.
You are good at learning from your own mistakes.
Yes, and there is two ways of learning: other people's mistakes, own mistakes.
Yes.
And the mentor also gives this other people's mistakes. Hey, come up with stories of heroes.
Yeah. We sometimes talk in our team that also a mentor for a short term can serve as a stick for instead of inner mental resilience, but only to help to build it up, not to replace it. Because then one would walk with a crutch whole life, which is not the goal of mentoring actually.
Yes. And this resilience, I wouldn't have this tough of a resilience without great people around me. So I've said that I play this game actually once per year that I take away from my life different things. And so let's take away that Jobilla is just thrown out the window. Then let's take my house and investment houses and things like this. Let's throw those away. And then let's throw away my cars and let's throw away. So you decrease into a level that you are with your underpants in the corner. Where I get it to really hurt the game is when we touch the people around me. So when I start playing this game alone in the room, where it really gets tears in my eyes of feeling bad, is when you start taking away all this relationship that I've built for the last 34 years. This is where it starts to hurt. But because I've lost one digital business and we build another one. So losing these things anymore, I don't feel this high attachment. Of course, Jobilla is important and we love the company, but it's not like everything or house we live in or anything. It's like, these are things and I'm not too attached to them. But one thing I have actually very high attachments is people around me. And I think it's not a bad thing to have attachments on crazy good people around you and having them there as your backbone. And because otherwise I talked also with one of my friends, influencer, and I asked, what if Instagram would be deleted? And she was like, I'm deleted almost. And I was like, okay, let's work on the attachments a little bit.
Yes.
But in this sense, the resilience has gone also from losing stuff, from losing in things. So not everything that Tommi Siro touches becomes gold, not even close. And also, I've seen that things happen, we go over them, and then you can see that this is not so serious, this thing, life. Things can go somewhere and then you find a way.
Mental resilience is an ability, but also it's a matter of perspective, how you look at things. So therefore, one can influence it.
Yes. And also, I would say that one reason I have it very good is that I come from so humble background. So I am actually, at the end of the day, I am happy with very little.
Yeah.
And I still am, even I've gotten more, and it looks like that Tommi's life is just about going for more and more.
Yeah.
But I'm actually grateful and happy just with getting to because my life looks the same as when I started as an entrepreneur. I do business and then I go evening in the CrossFit gym and then I'm with my family. It's the same thing basically. It's just the office is bigger and some stuff is there, but it's the same thing pretty much.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Tommi, for the conversation.
Thank you, Farhad.